Today on Live It Up, I decided to bring Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds. And the reason that I brought him is that he helps people, especially in the area of dependency, and really helping people overcome the challenges. And he's also an advocate in getting legislations passed in the state of New York and probably in the globe now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Now, you are heading up which organization now?
It's the Long Island Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence.
Okay.
We have offices across Long Island, but provide assistance to folks who are struggling with addiction, whether it's you yourself or a family member. We're the first call for many folks who figure out that perhaps their drinking or drug use has gotten out of control and they want to make some changes in their lives.
Now, when somebody first calls you for a resource, or do you have like an intake session with them? How does it work?
One of the things that's a little bit different about us is if you call us in the morning, we could see you in the afternoon. There's no waiting time. And so our mindset is, look, if you're ready to make some changes in your life, we're ready to help you. So there's an intake procedure. Folks are assigned a counselor. We work with you to assess what's going on, what would you like to change. And then if appropriate, we refer you out to ongoing treatment, care, inpatient, outpatient, whatever it might be. And then we're also there on the other side. So we help get you to treatment. We help you kind of discover what changes you want to make in your life. When you've gone through treatment and are ready to reassume your position in life and you need some support on the outside, we're there on the backside too. So we provide those wraparound services. And the other key thing about us is we support families, and very often families will call us at the end of their rope to say, I have done everything. I'm afraid they're going to hurt themselves. I don't know what else to do. We're the only nonprofit on Long Island that does planned family interventions, kind of like what you see on TV, though not neatly wrapped up in an hour. But for many families, it's a way out. It's hope that they didn't have before. And in most of those cases, that identified patient decides to go off to treatment, and everybody can chart a different course in their lives. It's
amazing what you do when you say that you help families. I think a lot of times people will read the books about like tough love and all these other kind of things, and they're looking for solutions, but you guys have the answers. You are the resource. You can direct them to the right books, the right websites they need to check into, and I think you're really there to support them because it is a family issue. And a lot of times it's an issue that nobody talks about. It's still that, you know, where cancer used to be like, shh, oh, you can't talk about that. Well, now it's drug addiction. Like nobody wants someone to know that their child might be on drugs. They tried to hide it and sweep it under the carpet. And I know that anonymity is important, and you do protect people and families.
We do. Our confidentiality provisions are very, very strong. But this is one of those things that you really can't do alone. And as families try to do it alone and maybe make some missteps along the way and don't get the proper guidance, the disease gets worse. It doesn't stop in its place. And addiction is one of those things, you know, we always talk about substance abuse is 100% preventable, and addiction is treatable. But that's based on your ability to get help at the right time and to intervene early. And you know, we always say to folks, maybe you're not ready to come in and to do an intervention with your loved one, call us. Let's have a conversation at the very least. There's no obligation. You can leave at any time. You can call us on the phone. Have the conversation. There's no reason to do this by yourself.
And what do you see in the epidemic, the reason for the epidemic? Because it seems like it's on the rise. What is it?
I've been in public health for 25 years. I've never seen anything like this, particularly here in this region. Not only prescription drug abuse, meaning OxyContin, Vicodin, prescription painkillers, and then heroin, but also a resurgence in alcohol use. As the economy has gotten tough and people look for coping mechanisms, the surest way to make your problems go away is to drown them in drugs and alcohol. So we've seen not only the rise in prescription painkillers that's been covered very heavily in the media out here, but also the use of other drugs across the board, and at the same time, a real reduction in available services out there, particularly for young people. And so, in a sense, it's the perfect storm. Having said all that, there is help that's available out there, and there's a lot of hope. And you know, what keeps us going is we see a lot of folks who do make it to the other side, who turn their lives around and then become the very best advocates for recovery and action.
Absolutely, because sometimes you have to walk the walk in order to help somebody else, or at least have a connection to it. A mom, a brother, or something. You have to really understand to be relatable, I think, to empathize more so than just sympathize. And I talked a little bit about legislation. There was a big thing that you just got passed in Albany. Let's talk about that. What steps do you take when you go up there and you say, bam, 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 this is what we need and this is important?
Well, you know, one of the reasons we've been successful, not only on the prescription drug issue in Albany, but on some other issues, is it's not me by myself. I'm kind of the talking head guy that runs an organization, although I think I have some credibility. Families tell the story better than I can. And so one of the things that was critical in this, in fact, you know, we did a Mother's Day press conference on moms who had lost their sons and daughters to overdose, who called on the legislature to take action. And they talked about what it's like to mark their first Mother's Day without their kids in their lives. That's very powerful stuff. And so for, a van load of moms who are struggling with bereavement issues to jump into a van and go to Albany and sit in front of legislators with pictures of their kids and say, this shouldn't have happened to my kid, and God knows it shouldn't happen to anybody else's, and you guys have the power to do something about it. That's what gets things done. And so, I think more of that has happened. It's a byproduct of just how bad the problem has gotten here on Long Island. But it's really parents, families, young people that went to Albany and made all the difference, and for the first time put a human face on addiction. It's not, for many, many years, addiction advocacy was done by folks who were kind of in the field and such. This has now cut such a wide path across middle-class Long Island that those folks are up in arms. They expect that schools are going to do good prevention education. They expect that when their kid has a problem, treatment's going to be available. They expect after paying insurance premiums that the insurance company's going to pay. And they're finding out that's not always true. And you know what? They're angry. That's what will bring about some change and make it easier for the next crop of parents who potentially has to deal with some of these horrors.
And I think both, people, you've got Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and you've got so many accidents that are happening. Yeah. I think if that whole community started working together and saying, yes, my kid was driving the car, and yes, he has a substance abuse issue, and I'm sorry for the loss. There's just too much loss of life. Yeah, I mean, when it really boils down to it, it's like, okay, how are we going to not just treat the symptoms? How are we going to turn this whole ship around and get people to care about their health and make people feel okay without the drugs? Yep. Now, even the recent airport bust, 300 bags of all those little bottles of alcohol. Yep. It's just insane. It's just getting to be way out of control. So it's nice to know that there's like an organization like yourself. You're there to help people. How can people make that first call to you? What's your website? How do they reach out to help you?
Phone number is 516-747-2606. That's 516-747-2606. Operators there 24/7. And trained counselors, not just an operator, volunteer type, trained counselors.
It's like a hotline more.
Yeah.
Right.
And then secondly, our website is licadd.org. It's licadd.org. And on there you find a whole bunch of information about addiction, about prevention programs, ways to get involved. And the only way we beat this thing is if we all join together and begin working on it. So whether you're struggling with a family member, whether you want to volunteer, whether you're a young person that wants to speak up and say, no, we're not all doing it, plenty of opportunities to get involved. And that's what will help us win.
Yeah, it's the 97% of the kids out there that aren't doing the drugs can really help the 3% that are. It's making a huge turn,
those kids never get our attention. We blare the headlines and say this amount of kids are smoking pot every day or drinking every day, and we never kind of look at the majority and say, but these kids are not. And I don't think we spend enough time focusing on those kids and praising them and putting them out in front as role models.
And networking them together so that maybe they can have a buddy system. Yeah. Good ideas. For these awesome ideas on how we can help each other, check out liveituptvshow.com. I'm Donna Drake, working with Dr. Jeffrey Reynolds. Right here on Live It Up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah.